Top story this hour, S&P Global Ratings has retained its positive outlook on South Africa. It cited the country's strong financial markets and an improved fiscal and debt position. However, the ratings agency warns that there are a number of threats, including a slowing global environment and the rolling blackouts. Let's speak now to economist Professor Bonke Dumisa. Thank you for joining us this morning, Prof. And what did you make of the insights that were provided by S&P Global on the positive outlook on South Africa, despite them leaving us in junk status for now?
It is very exciting and encouraging to hear this from Standard & Poor, because in 2018, they were the very first ones to downgrade South Africa to junk status the moment it was clear that the country was moving to a technical recession then. And they've been the first ones to push us deeper and deeper within and inside junk status. So for them to be the first ones now to give a very encouraging assessment of the South African sovereign is very encouraging, because Moody's, we know, they always, or they usually side with South Africa. Fitch is always in between the two. The truth is, the South African financial markets are very respected globally. The JSE is well respected, and our banks in particular are respected globally. And that's why it has been easy for South African banks to move to other countries. So when you invest your money in South Africa, you know that you are going to get it back, and there are no challenges that show there may be a change of regime and the money may not be able to be taken out of the country. We thank them for that. And when it comes to the threats that they have raised about the global economic environment, it is true, as I've highlighted here on eNCA, that we have very high inflation rates in the US, Europe, the UK, and other countries. And that is why we have the rising cost of living, not just in South Africa, but globally. I've said a lot on that. The issue which is unique to South Africa, which they have raised and which I have also dealt with here, is the issue of Eskom load shedding.
No, that's...
I mean, they just pushed it up to stage 4 yesterday, and they say until further notice. And I have remarked time and again that it is destroying the economy in South Africa. And it is for that reason that we think we are going to have a technical recession in South Africa, if ever as we think the third quarter comes out negative. So let us just hope that Eskom can get its act together.
And one way is that government tried to get Eskom to get its act together was committing to taking on a portion of Eskom's debt. We don't know if it'll be a third or 2/3 at this stage, but that announcement by government prompted Moody's to give us a stable rating. And I'm just wondering, Prof, do you think that S&P also looked at that move by government to take on a portion of Eskom's debt as a positive one, despite the fact that it might put a little bit more pressure on the government's debt burden currently?
I am sure that they actually took that into consideration. Soon you will hear Fitch, the other international credit rating agency, following suit, because as I say, Standard & Poor is the one which is usually more negative about South Africa than the other two. So if ever they are the first ones then to come up with this glowing assessment, then all of them are going to follow suit. But they are watching how government is going to deal with the public service strike, because you must remember that even though public servants form only 1.2 million of the South African population, they account for 33% of South Africa's payments.
And how How do they deal with that, Prof? Because the unions are hell-bent on getting what they are now calling for, once again, 10% increase in their wages. And government is also really locking in its feet, saying we cannot give you more than we have put on the table. How does government deal with this impasse? Because at the end of the day, it's not just the ratings agencies that are watching this closely. There are other potential investors that are looking on government to say, how are you structuring your budget to make sure that you are creating room for economic growth via investment through the different state organs? How do they create that balance?
There's nothing that the government can do about this as it is now. One of the things which was raised by Standard & Poor was that we've got fiscal discipline in South Africa, and standing up to this by the government, not because they are difficult, but because there is absolutely no money, is one of those signs of being fiscally disciplined. You must remember that countries like Zimbabwe became failed states because the state was always trying to please everyone and giving everything to everyone all the time. And where are they now?
No, absolutely. And then, of course, there's another cloud that hangs over us, Prof, the grey listing. That decision set to be made in February. Do you think Standard & Poor's, in its review of South Africa's current state, may have looked into the implications of us being grey listed? Should we not implement the necessary reforms in due course?
I think on this one, I can tell you, all South Africans must relax. South Africa is not going to be grey listed.
Why are you so confident about that, Prof?
It is saber rattling. The mere fact that the United States was able to pinpoint some people who said they were a threat to global peace, and they were arrested here in South Africa in the full glaze of everyone in the world, shows that South Africa does not want to be the home for global terrorists or people who are destabilizing other countries. So the whole issue of grey listing, I think some people have been pushing that agenda for other reasons. South Africa is not a home for people who are destabilizing other countries. When it comes to money laundering, yes, there have been some instances, but South Africa is showing its teeth by dealing with those people. Many people have been arrested and prosecuted for money laundering. So South Africa is, when it comes to grey listing, don't worry.
Yeah, and then just a final one, very briefly, Prof, if you could. The ratings agency did say that it would be releasing a more firm view on South Africa post the national budget in February. What do you think they would be listening out for when Enoch Godongwana delivers that national budget next year?
It will be, as many other international credit rating agencies always look for, if ever they see that the country is now trying to pull back from its fiscal discipline and is giving in too much just for the sake. We must remember we have the national elections in 2024. So some people outside think then that the ruling ANC government may be tempted to say, let us just give whatever people want, regardless of the implications, which I don't think is something which is going to happen. If what I am saying will not happen, does not happen, we must rest assured the international credit rating agencies will not change their outlook on South Africa from positive.
Thank you so much for those interesting insights. As always, Professor Bonke Dumisa is an economist joining us to unpack the review by Standard & Poor's. And of course, National Treasury did release a statement subsequent to that, saying that they are encouraged that the different initiatives that government has been working on over the last few years or so are starting to show and are taking the interest of those ratings agencies.